Are you serious? Are you serious? Are we back talking about this again? Yes. Matter of fact, unfortunately, things are going to get very, very intense in these end times, as we've always said to you. And over the nearly 14 years that we've been doing this on a daily basis, the prophecy of the Bible is heating up. Welcome, guys. Hey, I'm back here in Florida. Long travel day yesterday. Stuck in the airport 6 hours. Got home about 1:35 a.m., something like that. So anyway, but we can't waste time because we've got to get on what's happening around the world. First of all, let me put a quick shout out to our friends over at www.noblegoldinvestment.com, also known as www. They like me to use this, PastorPaulGold.com. That's www.PastorPaulGold.com. Dark clouds are gathering, folks. Markets are starting to shudder. Stocks are sinking, and currencies are stumbling. Fear and uncertainty reigns. And the Middle East, of course, and Ukraine war, and the threat of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, and our debt in America that continues to grow without endless limits. Yet one asset stands firm, and that's been gold. It is a biblical currency. In crisis after crisis, gold has always been there. It's in the background. It's an enduring value. It guards against loss and like a missile shield against incoming. And while paper wealth and fiat money and crypto money will burn, God and gold will persist. Shield your savings against the looming threats of war, recession, contagion, invasion, infestation, taxation, migration, the Biden administration, the frustration. Just shield yourself from all of that and avoid the frenzied panic of the unprepared. Take control in the chaos. Fortune favors decisive action. Get a hold of the gold now before it's out of reach. Right now, you can go to www.noblegoldinvestments.com or www.pastorpaulgold.com and set up a gold or silver IRA. They're going to give this free 5 ounces of pure silver coin to everybody who sets up an IRA. It's free. They'll give it to you, okay? Don't miss it. Get it now. Go to www.pastorpaulgold.com or call them on the phone at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Tell them Pastor Paul sent you. Well, yes, Invasion America. I just mentioned that, but before I get into the rest of this story here about what's happening in the Holy Land, which is really, 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 really moment to moment could explode. Invasion America is certainly on everyone's mind, whether it be fentanyl, the southern border, the woke agenda, the inconsistent, invasion of the interest rates, the invasion of inflation. The changing of the invasion of the cancel culture. I mean, really, this webinar we're going to do this Friday is incredibly important. And I mean, it is the last webinar of the year, but it's incredibly important. The guests have been off the chain. Colonel David Giammona and Troy Anderson were incredible. Mike from the World, amazing. Drops more bombs in this interview than any interview I've ever done with him. He drops more bombs on you than ever before. And Doug Hagman will probably shake you to your core. And don't forget, Dave Hodges reveals some unbelievable information, and so does Stan Deyo. And all of these speakers, all of them, all 14 of them. So you don't want to miss this. Please get your ticket now. Go to my website at paulbegleyprophecy.com. That's www.paulbegleyprophecy.com and get your ticket for Invasion America. Okay, you'll be really glad you did that. Let's talk about the Holy Land for a minute, because certainly, as a matter of fact, it just printed off the thing. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry. Fragile truce. It's really what it is. It's a very fragile truce in Gaza right now. It has been extended as Israel faces pressure to spare civilians if fighting resumes. But of course, Israel is also looking at the fact that they have to fight for the survival of their country, not just during this battle with Hamas and trying to eliminate Hamas, but the battle with the media, the battle with the United Nations and the world leaders and world powers. Matter of fact, Elon Musk was in Israel yesterday, spending a whole day with Benjamin Netanyahu, going to the locations at the kibbutz where people were massacred, watching the video footage, some of which you and I have never seen, of the horrific events of that day. Musk decided that Hamas must be destroyed without question, but then he also said he would like to help rebuild Gaza, and that in conjunction with Israel. Now, that's very important because Mohammed bin Salman at Saudi Arabia has been saying the same thing. He would like to rebuild Gaza, but not necessarily in conjunction with Israel, but I think he probably is leaning toward a two-state solution. So you're watching now the big money players, Musk and Mohammed bin Salman, and and soon you'll hear from the King of England, Charles, and of course the Pope has something to say about it, and all of it. Now you guys may know I interviewed a guy in Jerusalem a few years ago by the name of Samatov, who I was sitting in Jerusalem at a hotel, in a lobby of a hotel of the Sephardic House was the name of the hotel there in the old city of Jerusalem. I was actually interviewing this man who's a very prophetic guy himself, but the information he shared, and I aired this on television a couple times, is that the deal has already been signed, that it was signed in 2001 with Ariel Sharon, and when Ariel Sharon was still alive, and with it included the British Empire were there, the European Union was there, the United Nations were there, the Vatican was there, representatives from the Vatican, also the Americans were there, the Russians were there, of course the Israelis were there, representatives from the Arabic world were there, and I'm not sure exactly who all those were, but there was this huge gathering of, and they signed a secret deal that was a two-state solution, but it was going to take at least 20 years to implement, that they had to first build the infrastructure, okay, and work on the political atmosphere. And the reason that Samatov knew about this secret meeting and signing was because Ariel Sharon's secretary, who was there typing it, told him about it after Sharon had died, after Ariel Sharon had died. And I think Sharon died, in 2012 or 2013. I'm not exactly positive. I have to go back and look. I covered it when it happened. And she said, it's already been done. It's already done. Whether she told him the truth or not, I don't know. But what I can say is biblical prophecy leads you to believe that they will part the land. God would plead with the world. He would bring the whole world down to Jehoshaphat, to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and plead with them not to do it, but that apparently it happens anyway. Well, let me read what's taking place here. A fragile truce between Israel and Hamas have entered its fifth day today, barely hanging on, with the militant group of Hamas promising to release more hostages to delay the expected resuming of the war, and Israel under growing pressure to spare Palestinian civilians when it renews its offensive. Now, Eleanor, I see what you're saying there. They deplatformed Dave Hodges. All right, I'll look into that. Thank you. Dave Hodges, he's in this webinar, and I actually am filming him. I'm actually taping his segment tomorrow for Friday. So I'm taping him tomorrow. So I'm sure he's going to share what all happened here in the interview I do tomorrow. That's going to be on the webinar. For the first time since the ceasefire began, Israel and Hamas have traded accusations of a serious violation. The Israeli military said 3 explosive devices were detonated near its troops at 2 locations in northern Gaza, and that militants at one site opened fire on the troops, who fired back. Now, it is said that the troops were in positions in accordance with the terms of the truce. Hamas, in turn, accused Israel of committing a blatant breach of the ceasefire, triggering retaliation by its fighters, without providing details. But it said in a statement that it was still committed to the ceasefire so long as the enemy is committed also, and urged mediators to intervene. It is not immediately clear if the exchange posed a threat to the truce, but it underscored the fragility of the truce in northern Gaza, where Israeli forces and Hamas fighters are holding their positions in close proximity to each other, each preparing for a potential resumption or resuming of fighting when the ceasefire begins. Hang on a second. I'm just hearing noises, but I don't see nothing. The sides agreed to extend their truce through Wednesday, so they're going to do today and tomorrow, with another 2 more planned exchanges of militant-held hostages for Palestinians imprisoned by Israel. But Israel was vowed to resume the war with full force and to destroy Hamas once it's clear that no more hostages will be freed under the deal. The Biden administration has told Israel it must avoid significant further displacement and mass casualties among Palestinian civilians if it resumes the offensive, and that it must operate with more precision in southern Gaza than it has in the north, according to U.S. officials. The officials spoke on condition of anonymity under ground rules set by the White House. CIA Director William Burns and David Barnina, who heads the Israeli Mossad intelligence agency, were in Qatar. So you have the director of the CIA and the head of Mossad of Israel in Qatar. A key mediator was there from Hamas to discuss extending the ceasefire and releasing more hostages. A diplomat said on condition of anonymity that the talks were happening. But the U.S. officials have confirmed that Burns was in Qatar, speaking because the director's travel plans are publicized. They're not going to tell you when and where he leaves and when he goes, of course. But U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is set to go back, also keeping an eye to extend the truce. And Hamas and other militants are still holding about 160 people hostage out of the 240 that were taken in the siege, according that took place on October 7th, on that assault in southern Israel that ignited this war and the death of over 1,400 innocent civilians. That's enough to potentially extend the truce for another 2 weeks under existing framework brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and U.S., but Hamas is expected to make much higher demands for the release of more of their captive soldiers. Israel's vowed to end the Hamas 16-year rule in Gaza and crush its military capabilities. That would almost certainly require expanding the ground offensive from northern Gaza, where entire residential areas have been pounded into rubble and where hundreds and thousands of displaced people have packed into the overflowing United Nations shelters. And Israel blames the soaring casualty toll on Hamas, accusing the militants of using civilians as human shields while operating in the very dense residential areas. Monday's release brought to 50 the number of Israelis who have been freed under the terms of this initial 4-day truce. An additional 19 hostages were released in separate negotiations, including 17 from Thailand, 1 from the Philippines, and 1 Russian Israeli. So you have 50 of the hostages have been set free as agreed, but another 19 people was also let go who nobody knew were even hostages. Now, so far, 150 Palestinians have been released from Israeli prisons. Israel has said it would extend the ceasefire by 1 day for every 10 additional hostages that they would release. The Palestinian prisoners released so far have been mostly teenagers accused of throwing stones and firebombs or during confrontations with Israeli forces. The people who attacked with knives against Israeli forces or have not been released by Israel. So this situation continues in this very fragile situation developing there in Israel as we speak. But there's going to be more exchanging of hostages for prisoners today and looks like tomorrow. And then we'll see what happens after that. I want to read a prophecy in the Bible. It's found in the book of Micah. If you go to the 4th chapter of Micah, here's what the word of the Lord said concerning events that would be happening in the last days. This is Micah chapter 4, verse 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow into it. So there is I got more to read, but let's just stop there. That verse right there tells you that in the last days, the third temple will be built. The house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains. That would be on the Temple Mount. And it will be exalted above all the hills in the area there, and people shall flow into it. So there will be, according to Micah the prophet in the Old Testament, that in the last days, this will happen, okay? Now, verse 2 says, and many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So we have a prophecy here. You might want to mark it in your Bible. Get a highlighter. Well, this was supposed to be yellow, but as you can see, when you have a green screen, things look different. It's Micah chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. So the third temple is built in the last days. It even says, in the last days it shall come. And people will flow from all over the world. And they will go to the house of Jacob. And they will learn the law that shall go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And it says here, the next verse says, in verse 3, and he shall judge among many people. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off. But that's where I think for one of the first times you hear America being prophetically mentioned. I think America gets rebuked because there's a time when America stands with Israel, and there's a time when America apparently steps back. Okay, and that's due to whoever is in leadership. But this doesn't say it's America. It could be somewhere else, but it does mention it. He says that he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off. It could be China. Okay? And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken it. For all people will walk every one in the name of the God, of his God, little g, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. So when does this happen, Pastor? In the last days, okay? But wait, there's more. And in that day, verse 6, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast off a strong nation. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth even forever. So we have a prophecy in Micah chapter 4, verses 1 through 7, that the Lord will establish his third temple in the mountains of Jerusalem, there in the hills of Zion. And this is the house of the God of Jacob, and people will flow into it. And Zechariah says, from all nations they'll flow into it. Micah says this people will flow into it. And the law will go forth out of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Now that same statement is made by Isaiah in chapter 2 of the book of Isaiah. He prophesies that the third temple would be built in the last days, and he says the same thing. And I read this verse from the Knesset when I was so blessed to be asked to speak at the Knesset. What I did was read this, Isaiah chapter 2. I read these words. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days. When? The last days. That the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So it's almost word for word the prophet Isaiah, who was probably the greatest prophet of all of the Old Testament. Isaiah chapter 2, verses 1, 2, and 3 is almost word for word what Micah prophesies in his book, Micah chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. And then I say read all the way through 7. Okay? So again, we're looking at current world events. Behind me does not look like a situation that would be a third temple being built and the whole world flowing into Jerusalem to the house of Jacob to learn the word of the Lord. If you look at that picture behind me, which was taken 3 weeks ago, of what was happening at this moment in the Holy Land, you would say, how are we going to get from there to here? Well, it is in process. And what you're witnessing right now, unfortunately, is part of the pain and the process of the prophetic words that are taking place. So it's very, very interesting what's happening. We are in the end times. We're in the last days. And so we pray for the people all over the world. I pray for the people of Gaza. There's so many innocent civilians there, but that are just absolutely in this horrific situation. I pray for the pain that the people are feeling there in Gaza. And I feel for the pain also that the Jews are feeling, whose family members are still being held hostage and the others are still in the dark. We're hearing from the hostages that have been released that many of them were just put in these dark, like, tunnels. They were never given any information. They didn't know, who was alive, who was dead. They didn't know how long they were going to be there. They could hear bombing going off, but they didn't know what that meant. It was just unbelievable. So we're going to continue to watch all these things that are taking place right now. We're truly living in the end times, truly living in the last days. I'll be right back. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem and pray one for another, for your families. I bring you this information because of, as a matter of fact, because I know you need to know where we stand in this end times. My book, Revelation 9/11, which is coming out, going to be released very soon. This you can get a pre-order it now if you go to Amazon.com. You can pre-order it, and it'll be shipping on April 2nd. They will be releasing them. I talk about these things. It's amazing because I wrote things that are now happening. God told me to write this book, told me this 2 years ago, to get it done, to get it out, because Apollyon is about to come out of the pit. It's about to happen. Revelation 9:11 is about to happen. And when it does, it will bring forth what Russ Dizdar used to say, the Black Awakening. Christ is coming soon. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. He's coming soon. Get your tickets for Invasion America. Go to our website right now and get your tickets for Friday. We're only 3 days away.
Saturday was silent, and surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? And Friday's disappointment is Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of a dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Your resurrection power, it runs in my veins too. I believe there's another miracle here in this room. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
Somebody pray right now.
My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Just the man who was thrown on the bones of Elijah.
Think about it.
If there's anything that he can do, just ask the stone that was rolled at the tomb in the garden. What happens when God says to move? I feel him moving it now. I feel him doing it now. I feel him doing it now. Do it now. Do it now. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Yeah, this is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
Are you serious?
Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord, and I will put my spirit in you, and I will place you in your own land, and you shall live. I will place you in your own land. You shall live, 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 live.
We're in the end times. No doubt about it.
This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Yeah, this is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
Rattle, rattle, the bones in the Ezekiel 37 rattle are taking place. All right. Well, guys, guess what? It is only 3 days. Is that right? Today's Tuesday, right? Man, I lost a day yesterday in that travel. Oh. So, Tuesday, yeah. So, Wednesday. Yeah, we're 3 days away. We're 3 days away. Have you got your ticket yet for the webinar, Invasion America? It's going to be absolutely mind-boggling. And so you don't want to miss it. It's incredible, the information that these folks are sharing with you, and it's not exactly everything you think. Yes, you're going to hear about the southern border. You're going to hear about fentanyl. You're going to hear about the woke culture. Yes, you're going to hear about the cancel culture, and you're going to hear about all the other cultures. You're going to hear about all the different things that are invading our society, but there's a whole lot more that's going on that you don't know about, that has not been either released in the media or even shared by by authorities. We are in the end times, and we need to pray like we've never prayed before for America and for this nation's, the soul of this nation. I really believe this truly, that the soul of this nation, the battle for the soul of the nation truly is taking place. So go to our website at paulbegleyprophecy.com, get your ticket, or you can pick up the phone and call right now. Call the main office, 765-414-2230. That's 765-414-2230 if you want to order your ticket over the phone. If you want to go get your ticket right now at our website, you can do that. Get your ticket. Then on Friday night, this coming Friday night, December 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern, we will be sending you your private link, your ticket to this webinar, and full access to all 14 speakers and everything that's going on. It is unbelievable. You will be binge watching Friday night all weekend long. You can watch any speaker you want, Mike around the world. You can watch him 3 times in a row if you want to. Stop, write down notes. You'll probably do it. Same thing with Colonel Giamona and Troy Anderson. Maybe the same thing certainly for Doug Hagman. You're going to be blown away. And Dave Hodges and it's just incredible. Standeo and all of them. Okay? So don't miss this webinar. Unbelievable. I'll be back with more current world events. There's a lot happening. There's some stuff happening that I should have done first, but this is such pressing news. This was just now taking place, what's going on in Israel. I wanted to get you an update. I'll be back in a few minutes with another update right here on the coming apocalypse. Be sure and give your life to Jesus Christ. He is coming very, very soon. Are you saved? Are you serious?